Let me hit you with the truth right away. My own parents told every employer in my town that I was a thief. Not a rumor. Not a misunderstanding. Not a mistake, a calculated move. And for 2 straight years, no one would hire me. I wasn't lazy. I wasn't unqualified. I wasn't reckless. I graduated with a 3.9 GPA in accounting, top of my class. Professors vouched for me. My resume was clean. My interviews were flawless. But every time I walked out of an office feeling hopeful, another rejection email hit my inbox. Over and over and over again. What I didn't know yet was that the damage had already been done. Before I even applied. My father thought he was teaching me a lesson. What he didn't know was that my grandmother had already prepared for this moment 15 years earlier. And the man waiting for me at the top of a glass skyscraper, he wasn't just another interviewer. He was the beginning of the end for everything my father thought he controlled. But before I get there, you need to understand who my family really was. From the outside, the Thornton family looked untouchable. Big house. Perfect lawn. Luxury cars lined up in the driveway like trophies. My father, Gerald Thornton, owned the largest construction company in the county. Around town, his word carried weight. When he spoke, people listened. My mother, Diane, played her role flawlessly. Sunday dinners on fine china, polite smiles, never raising her voice in public. And then there was my brother Marcus. The golden boy. The hair. The future. Everything revolved around him. From the moment Marcus could walk, he was groomed to take over my father's empire. Every mistake was forgiven. Every success was celebrated. Me, I was background noise. At dinner, conversations orbited around Marcus. His internships, his promotions, his future. I passed plates, refilled glasses, and learned early that silence was safer than speaking. My father used to say things like, "A man builds his legacy through work." He'd say it while pointing his fork at Marcus. That fork never pointed at me. When Marcus wanted to study abroad in London, my dad wrote the check without blinking. When I asked about the same program 2 years later, he laughed. "What for? You'll get married someday. Don't waste money." That's when I understood something important. In my father's world, daughters weren't investments. They were liabilities. One night when I was 16, I overheard him in the kitchen talking to my mother. "Daughters don't need ambition," he said casually. "They need to learn how to keep a home. Ingrid will marry well. That's her job." I stood frozen in the hallway, heart pounding. That was the moment something cracked inside me. The summer before college, my parents handed me a credit card. "For necessities," my mom said. "Books, supplies, school expenses." I treated that card like it was radioactive textbooks, a used laptop, notebooks, nothing extra, nothing fun. Total spending over 3 months. Thurs $200. When the statement arrived, my father exploded. He slammed the paper on the table like I'd committed a felony. "Who gave you permission to spend this much?" "You did," I said. "You said it was for school?" "I said necessities," he snapped. "Not a shopping spree." Then he delivered the ultimatum that would quietly shape the rest of my life. Pay back every cent, or find somewhere else to live. So I did. 2 part-time jobs, late nights, no weekends. I paid back every dollar. But the cost wasn't just money. Because I was working 25 hours a week, I couldn't carry a full course load. My 4-year degree stretched into 6, 2 extra years of commuting from home. 2 extra years of being reminded I was a burden. My mother told me, "Your father just wants to teach you responsibility." I believed her. That was my mistake. The only person who ever saw what was really happening was my grandmother, Margaret Hayes. She wasn't soft. She wasn't sentimental. She built a furniture business from nothing, expanded it across the state, then sold it and retired on her own terms. She taught me how money worked before I was 12. "Knowledge is freedom," she'd say. "No one can steal what's in your head." One evening when I was 15, sitting on her porch watching the sun go down, she took my hand. "I've prepared for your future," she said quietly. I laughed it off. I had no idea what she meant. I had no idea she'd already seen what was coming. I thought the hardest part was over once I graduated. I really did. Walking across that stage with my diploma in my hand felt like proof. Proof that I'd survived, that I'd earned something no one could take from me. Accounting degree, Honors. 3.9 GPA. For the first time in my life, I believed my future belonged to me. I was wrong. The graduation ceremony was packed. Families cheering, cameras flashing, parents crying proud tears. Mine were there too. But when my name was called, they weren't even watching. My father stood between my mother and Marcus, laughing about something. Heads leaned together. Marcus checked his phone. My mom smiled politely at someone else. No applause. No pride. No acknowledgement. The only person I felt in that moment was my grandmother. And she was already gone. After the ceremony, my father found me in the parking lot. "Nice job," he said, the same tone he used on delivery drivers. Then, like it was nothing, he added, "Come work at the company." My heart jumped. Finally, recognition. Then came the conditions. "No pay for the first year," he said. "You'll live at home, help your mother, learn the business. When Marcus takes over, you'll be useful, unpaid, controlled, dependent." I swallowed and chose the bravest words I'd ever spoken. "I'd like to find my own job first. Get outside experience." He nodded once. "Fine," he said softly. That was it. No argument, no anger, just silence. And I didn't realize it yet, but that silence was a declaration of war. The rejection emails started almost immediately. Accounting firm downtown, great interview, warm handshake, rejection 2 days later. Regional bank, same thing. Insurance company, medical billing office, credit union, 15 applications, 15 rejections. Each one felt identical. Friendly smiles, encouraging nods. "We'll be in touch soon." Then nothing. I rewrote my resume, changed my cover letters, practiced answers in the mirror until my voice went hoarse. Still nothing. That's when doubt crept in. Maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe my GPA didn't matter. Maybe I was delusional. Then came the interview that changed everything. Patterson Financial Services. The HR manager was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and tired hands. She listened carefully, asked thoughtful questions, and nodded as I spoke. Then she paused. Looked at me longer than necessary. "Miss Thornton?" she said slowly. "I'm going to tell you something I probably shouldn't." My stomach tightened. "You seem qualified, professional, capable." She hesitated. "But you should talk to your father." I blinked. "My father." She pressed her lips together. "I can't say more. Just ask him." The interview ended there. I drove home shaking. That night, I found my father in his study, sitting behind his heavy desk with a glass of scotch. "Why can't I get a job?" I asked. He looked up and smiled. A small, satisfied smile. "I told them the truth," he said. "What truth?" "That you're a thief." The room spun. "That I stole Furs 200 from my own family. That you can't be trusted with money." "I paid that back?" I whispered. "You know I did?" He shrugged. "That's not how I remember it." Then he said the words that broke something permanent inside me. Employers deserve to know what kind of person they're hiring. My mother appeared in the doorway. She knew it was wrong. I saw it in her eyes. She said nothing, and that hurt worse than anything else. My father stepped closer. "You turned down my offer," he said quietly. "You thought you could survive without me." He smiled. "No, you know you can't." By morning, the town had shifted. Neighbors avoided eye contact. Conversations stopped when I walked by. Whispers followed me through grocery store aisles. "Did you hear about Gerald's daughter? Such a shame. They tried to help her." My father didn't lie outright. He curated the truth. And in a small town, his version was the only one that mattered. Marcus made it worse. One morning at a coffee shop, he laughed loudly and said, "Careful, guys. She might steal from the register." His friends laughed. I walked out without my drink. 2 months later, my savings were almost gone, and that's when I took the only job left: housekeeping, minimum wage, scrubbing toilets, making beds for people who used to respect me. And my father, he thought he'd won. But what he didn't know was that I was about to stumble into something he'd spent years trying to hide. I used to think rock bottom would feel dramatic, like some big moment, a breakdown, a scream, tears on the floor. I was wrong. Rock bottom feels quiet. It smells like bleach. It sounds like carts rolling over tile. It looks like rubber gloves and wrinkled uniforms. The Willow Inn sat on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, just a place travelers slept before moving on with their lives. I worked housekeeping. 6 a.m. shifts, minimum wage, no questions asked. Linda, the manager, didn't care about rumors. "I just need people who show up," she said. "You do that, we're good." I scrubbed toilets next to women twice my age who didn't ask questions. I changed sheets in rooms where guests left messes like they'd never learned basic respect. And I told myself this was temporary. Until the night my family walked in. It was a Friday evening. I was pushing my cart down the service hallway when I heard a laugh I knew too well, deep, confident, satisfied. My father. I froze. Peeking around the corner, I saw them being seated in the hotel restaurant. My dad in a charcoal suit. My mom in pearls. Marcus scrolling on his phone. They looked perfect. Then my father saw me, the uniform, the gloves, the cart. His face lit up. "Deanne," he said loudly, pointing straight at me. "Look, our daughter finally found her calling." Marcus laughed. "Hey, Ingrid," he yelled across the restaurant. "You missed a spot in room 204. People turned to stare. Whispers started. My father raised his wine glass in a mock toast. "Maybe now," he said, "you'll learn some respect." I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I just turned around and walked away. But something inside me hardened that night. 3 weeks later, I was cleaning out my closet, trying to sell old things to make rent, when I found my old phone, the one I hadn't used since my grandmother died. I plugged it in. Notifications flooded the screen, and then I saw it. One voicemail, 3 years old. From a law firm. My hands shook as I pressed play. "Miss Thornton, this is Walter Henderson regarding the estate of Margaret Hayes." My heart stopped. The message explained that there were documents requiring my attention. I'd never known. I remembered that time: grief, chaos, numbness. I'd assumed my father handled everything. I called the firm immediately. The receptionist paused. "Mr. Henderson attempted to contact you multiple times," she said. "Your father eventually informed us you weren't interested." My blood ran cold. He intercepted it. He buried it. Whatever my grandmother left me, he didn't want me to have it. A month later, my father called. His voice was warm. Too warm. "Come home," he said. "Work for me, I'll fix everything." Then his tone shifted. "If you don't," he added, "you can keep scrubbing toilets." That night, I overheard him talking in the hotel restaurant again. This time, he was planning something worse. Talking about marriage. About business alliances. About breaking me until I agreed. I slid down a supply closet wall, shaking. This wasn't discipline. This was ownership. So I did the only thing I could. I applied everywhere. Far away. Cities where the Thornton name meant nothing. Weeks passed. Then an email arrived. "Mercer Holdings, interview requested, CEO present." It made no sense, but I packed my bag anyway. Because when you're at the bottom, you don't ignore a door opening. The bus ride to the city felt unreal. 2 hours of cracked highways, flickering streetlights, and my thoughts spiraling faster than the road beneath me. I had $47 in my wallet. A second-hand navy suit folded carefully in my bag. And one chance. Mercer Holdings wasn't just a company. It was a giant. Regional powerhouse. Multiple states. The kind of place people dreamed about and never got into. I'd applied on a whim at 2 in the morning, convinced nothing would come of it. Now I was walking toward a glass tower that made me feel small in every possible way. The night before the interview, I stayed in a cheap motel near the bus station. The room smelled like old cleaner and regret. The mattress dipped in the middle. I steamed my thrift store suit using the shower. Polished my scuffed heels with a hotel towel. Practiced interview answers until my voice cracked. "Tell me about yourself. Why accounting? Why Mercer Holdings?" And the hardest one: explain the 2-year gap. No version sounded safe. That morning, as I walked toward the building, my phone rang. "Dad." I almost ignored it. Almost. "I hear you have an interview today," he said flatly. My stomach dropped. "How do you know that?" "Marcus follows your social media," he replied. "You're careless." Then, he said the words I'd been dreading. "One phone call. That's all it takes." My phone buzzed again. "A text from Marcus, you're done." Dad already called them. My hands shook so badly I had to stop walking. This was it. Another door burned before I could reach it. But something inside me snapped. If I was going to fail, I'd fail standing up. I silenced my phone, straightened my jacket, and walked into Mercer Holdings anyway. The lobby was everything my life wasn't. Marble floors. Modern art suspended from the ceiling. People in tailored suits moving with purpose. I gave my name at reception. The woman typed, looked up, and smiled. "Mr. Mercer is expecting you." The CEO. Personally, the elevator shot up to the 26th floor. When the doors opened, I stepped into a space that looked more like a private gallery than an office. Floor to ceiling windows. Quiet, power. An assistant led me to a large oak door. "He's been waiting for you," she said softly. Waiting? I walked in. Daniel Mercer stood by the window, silver at his temples, calm in a way that made the room feel grounded. "Miss Thornton," he said warmly. "Please, sit." I barely had time to speak before he turned toward a safe built into the wall. "I need to give you something before we begin." He opened it and pulled out an envelope. Old. Yellowed. Sealed with wax. My breath caught. Written across the front, in handwriting I recognized instantly, were the words "only to be opened when my granddaughter Ingrid applies to Mercer Holdings," dated 15 years ago. My knees almost gave out. "Your grandmother," Daniel said gently, "saved my company when no one else would." He explained everything, how she invested when he was nobody, how she made him promise one thing, that if I ever came here, he'd give me this. Inside the envelope were 3 items. A letter, a certificate, a journal. The certificate made my vision blur. 8% ownership, founding shareholder, Mercer Holdings. My grandmother had put the shares in my name when I was a child. Hidden, protected, untouchable. The journal documented years of what she'd seen. My father's control, cruelty, and manipulation. She knew. She always knew. Daniel looked at me with quiet respect. "Your father called me this morning," he said. My chest tightened. "He tried to destroy you." Daniel continued calmly. Without realizing he was slandering a shareholder. For the first time in 2 years, I smiled. Because my father had just made the biggest mistake of his life. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of fear but because my entire understanding of reality had just shifted. 8%. That number replayed in my head over and over. Not a loan. Not a favor. Not a gift with strings. Ownership. My grandmother hadn't just left me money, she'd left me power. And she'd hidden it so well that even my father, who controlled everything else in my life, never found it. Daniel gave me space after the envelope. He understood that I needed time to breathe, to process the fact that the woman who loved me most had been planning my escape since I was a child. When he returned, his tone was gentle but direct. "There's something you should know," he said. My stomach tightened again. "Your father has been trying to get a construction contract with Mercer Holdings for months. He wants access. Influence." I laughed softly. "Of course he did." Daniel leaned back in his chair. "We're hosting our annual charity gala next week. Every major partner will be there. Including my father." The silence stretched between us. "I'd like to introduce you," Daniel said carefully. "Publicly." The idea hit me like a wave. "Introduce me to him, as a senior financial analyst," he continued, "and as a founding shareholder." I hesitated. This wasn't about revenge. I didn't want to humiliate him. Daniel seemed to read my mind. "This isn't punishment," he said. "It's truth. He's controlled the narrative for years. This gives it back to you." I thought about the whispers, the toilet brush, the years of silence. "Okay," I said finally, "I'll do it." The week leading up to the gala passed in a blur. Legal teams verified everything. Documents were filed. Security protocols were arranged. Daniel offered me the analyst position officially. Paid. Respected. Mine, meanwhile, my father kept calling. First warm, then sharp, then threatening. "Come home," he said. "You're embarrassing yourself." My mother called too. "Please," she whispered. "Just stop fighting him." But I wasn't fighting anymore. I was walking forward. The night of the gala arrived. The Grand Meridian Hotel looked unreal. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, soft jazz floating through the air. The Mercer PR team dressed me simply. Navy dress. Pearls. Nothing flashy. I didn't need flash. Through the upstairs window, I saw my family arrive. My father scanned the room like a king entering his court. He thought he belonged there. He had no idea he was walking into a room where he held no power at all. Daniel's assistant touched my arm. 5 minutes. My heart pounded. 5 minutes until the truth came out. 5 minutes until my father learned that the daughter he tried to erase owned part of the company he was begging to impress. 5 minutes until everything changed. From the balcony above the ballroom, I watched my father work the crowd. He was in his element, laughing too loud, shaking hands like he owned the place, dropping his last name like it was a credential. Gerald Thornton loved rooms like this. Rooms where power floated invisibly in the air and people competed for it, without realizing they were being judged. I saw him corner Daniel near the bar. My father leaned in, confident, smiling, gesturing with his drink. He was pitching himself. What he didn't know was that he was pitching to someone who already knew everything. The assistant returned. Mr. Mercer is starting his remarks. I took a breath. The lights dimmed slightly. Conversations softened. Glasses clinked. Daniel stepped up to the microphone. He spoke about integrity, about building something that lasts, about people who stand alone when it's easier to obey. Then his voice shifted. There's someone I'd like you to meet. That was my cue. The side doors opened, and I walked in. Heels clicking against marble. Chandeliers catching the light off my dress. 200 faces turning toward me. I didn't look for my father at first. I didn't need to. I felt him. The air changed. Daniel's voice carried calmly through the room. Please welcome Mercer Holdings' newest senior financial analyst, and one of our founding shareholders, Miss Ingrid Thornton. The room murmured. Applause started politely. Then I saw my father. Frozen white-faced. My mother gripped his arm. Marcus dropped his champagne glass. It shattered at his feet. I reached the stage. Daniel shook my hand, and then my father snapped. What is this? He barked, pushing forward. She doesn't belong here. The room went silent. Daniel didn't raise his voice. Mr. Thornton, he said evenly, I suggest you lower yours. My father pointed at me. She's a thief. A ripple moved through the crowd. Daniel nodded once. Yes. You said that this morning. You also forgot to mention she repaid every dollar, or that you spent 2 years sabotaging her career. My father's confidence cracked. She disobeyed me. He snapped. She needed discipline. Daniel's eyes hardened. You also neglected to mention she owns 8% of this company. Silence. Heavy. Absolute. My father's mouth opened. Nothing came out. That investment, Daniel continued, was made by Margaret Hayes, her grandmother, before anyone else believed in Mercer Holdings. My father stumbled back. This is fraud, he shouted. She's lying. Daniel didn't blink. The documents are verified by 3 independent firms. Then my father did the one thing he'd always done. He told on himself. I destroyed her career, he yelled, because she needed to learn respect. Gasps filled the room. I made sure no one hired her. I made her clean toilets. I stepped forward. Enough. My voice was calm. I didn't need anger. Everyone here just heard you? I said. I turned to the crowd. I paid back the money he calls theft. Every cent. What I didn't deserve was being erased. I looked back at my father. I don't hate you, but I'm done. Security stepped in, not for me, for him. As they escorted my family out, no one stopped them. No one defended him. The power he'd relied on evaporated in real time. And for the first time in my life, I stood taller than him. The ballroom didn't erupt in applause right away. It exhaled. Like everyone had been holding their breath without realizing it. Then the whispers started. Not about me. About him. People leaned toward each other, eyes wide, voices low. Business cards stayed in pockets. Conversations shifted away from the space my father had just occupied. The jazz band slowly started playing again, soft and uncertain at first, like they were asking permission. I stood there, hands slightly shaking, not from fear, but from release. Daniel leaned toward me. You did well. I nodded, but I couldn't speak yet. One by one, people approached. Not with questions. With apologies. An HR director I recognized from my old interviews pressed a card into my hand. If you ever want to talk, really talk, I owe you that. Another executive said quietly, I believed him. I shouldn't have. I'm sorry. Every apology felt strange, not triumphant, not validating, Just closing a door. My family left without saying a word. No dramatic exit. No final glare. Just silence. And I realized something important. I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. The next weeks moved fast. Contracts disappeared from my father's company. Quietly, professionally. No announcements. No drama. People simply stopped answering his calls. Reputation, once cracked, doesn't heal easily. Daniel helped me settle into my new role. Real work, real responsibility, real respect. I moved into a small apartment with windows that caught the morning light. I bought groceries without calculating every dollar. Sometimes I still caught myself flinching, waiting for punishment that never came. My mother called once. "I forgive you," I told her. And I meant it, but forgiveness didn't mean returning. Marcus sent a message too, short, polished. "Too late," I replied with 3 words. "I wish you well." I drove to the cemetery one Sunday with yellow roses. Sat beside my grandmother's headstone and told her everything. "You knew," I whispered. "You always knew." The wind moved through the trees like an answer. I wasn't saved by luck. I was saved by love that planned ahead, and by the courage to keep going even when the world kept saying no. Freedom doesn't arrive with fireworks. It comes quietly. It shows up the first morning you wake up without fear. The first decision you make without asking permission. The first time silence feels peaceful instead of threatening. For a long time, I thought strength meant endurance. If I could just survive long enough, work hard enough, prove myself enough, then maybe love would follow. But here's the truth I learned the hard way: real love doesn't control you. It prepares you. My grandmother understood that. She didn't rescue me at the last second. She didn't shield me from pain. She built a door. And she trusted that when the time came, I'd walk through it on my own. If you're watching this and you feel trapped by family, by expectations, by guilt dressed up as loyalty, hear me clearly: boundaries are not betrayal. Walking away from control is not cruelty. Choosing yourself does not make you ungrateful. Some people don't love you for who you are. They love you for how much power they have over you. And when you stop playing your assigned role, they call it rebellion. It's not. It's growth. I didn't win by humiliating my father. I won by standing in the truth long enough for his lies to collapse. And you don't need money, or shares, or a miracle inheritance to do that. You just need to keep going when everything tells you to stop. Somewhere someone is quietly preparing your way forward. A skill you don't realize matters yet. A connection you haven't made. A chance you almost won't take. Don't quit before it reaches you. I keep my grandmother's letter with me. The paper is worn thin now, but the message is clear, live, free. If this story reached you, if it mirrored something you've lived or are living right now, you're not alone. Share this with someone who needs it. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. And if you want more real stories about breaking free and rebuilding from nothing, subscribe. Your life is bigger than the cage someone built for you. And you don't need permission to leave.